Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, number 109, the show where we talk about our fandoms through positivity. I am joined today by returning very special guest. It's Smash Trivia John. John, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing very well. I guess I am continuing my MCU retrospective. We were talking a little bit before we jumped on the thing today. Had you on 5-6 weeks ago at this point, and like midway through that episode, I was like, oh, I should have just waited to have easily the biggest Hulk fan I know. I would say very easily I've never met someone else who likes Hulk as much as you. And yeah, we've made it to, I guess I can't say we've made it, but I've made it to the second installment of this little mini series I'm doing, which is the 2008's Incredible Hulk, which I don't know about you. I don't know the last time you saw this movie. It's been a very long time for me. It's been a long time.
For me, it has been since like April of 2022 or so. I like that. Because I did an episode of my podcast on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured that with your podcast being mainly Hulk focused, I was like, I bet he's probably done an episode on the Hulk. So after this, if you guys want to hear even more thoughts on his, I would assume you just have a bunch of opinions on Hulk on your show. So you probably have a whole bunch of stuff over there.
And I have some controversial opinions about Hulk.
Ooh, amazing. Yeah, I think the last time I watched it, I kind of got into the MCU really like right before Infinity War. So I was kind of watching through a lot of them then. So it was like probably like 2018, 2019. And this movie has kind of done a weird thing, I feel like, over the last couple of years, where like I feel like when it first came out for so many years, Hulk was like one of the, and we'll talk about this more when we kind of actually get into that portion of the episode, but like I feel like back then it was like, oh, this is one of the worst MCU movies, no one likes the Hulk, it got a lot of hate. I think a bit of that was because of the recasting as well. It was kind of like the black sheep of the MCU. And now I think since more and more have come out, since there's been more MCU things that people haven't loved so much, I think people are looking at this movie and they're like, oh, was I wrong about this movie? Is it actually not as bad as I remember? So I think that's going to be fun to talk about later on in today's episode.
I think it's time where it's like, it's not nearly as bad as what some people think, but that it's not as good as what other people think.
Sure, it's in that like middle area. I would actually agree with that. Yeah, where like I'm watching it and I actually enjoyed it a lot more. I guess spoilers for my thoughts later, but like I enjoyed it a lot more this time than I remembered. But you're right, it's not like on the par of like Avengers or any of the fan favorite kind. Your Captain Americas and your stuff like your Guardians. So yeah, no, I think it's gonna be really fun hopping into that a bit later. Hello, one Marvel fan. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Hope everything's going well there. But yeah, let's hop into today's episode. Obviously, we like to start our episodes by asking my guests what they've been watching lately. Is there any movies, TV, video game, comics, things that you would like to talk about or shout out?
I think I haven't gone to see many movies lately, but I've watched recently because I did an episode of my podcast just this past Tuesday on it. The Rocky Horror Picture Show from the 70s, which was fun. And I'm every week I'm watching Agatha as it comes out. So there's that. But other than that, really the only other things that I've been watching lately is I have been for the past couple years I've been binging The Simpsons, and I'm very near to the being finished with it finally. And I also started watching this show about this guy who can and talk to ghosts and help them with unfinished business called Deadbeat.
Oh wow! Okay, fun time for those kind of ghostly, goblin-y kind of stuff coming out. I always want to be watching these Halloween-y type projects around October, and I always seem to fall short of what I want to talk about. I did Interview with a Vampire a couple weeks ago because I heard like the TV show for that was like really really good, and I was like, okay, I'll check out the movie because it's technically connected. That was a weird movie, but it was.
I've
okay.
never watched it, and it's like though I'm like, I don't know if I want to after the reference that was made to it in Deadpool 2.
I might have to rewatch that now because I don't remember the reference.
Well, they made like that reference is the only thing I know about the film, and it's and now that reference was him saying, it's Deadpool and Dopinder talking about Tom Cruise kissing an 11-year-old Kristen Dunst.
That does happen, and
it's like I don't know if that's what I want to see.
That is, there's some other context, but yeah, technically, that's really funny. I'll have to rewatch that scene. But no, I did that. What else have I watched? I did the new season of Heartstopper. I don't know if anyone in the chat watches that show. New season was incredible. Like I made a video on it recently, but like the first 2 seasons are like the most wholesome show you've ever seen, and it's like, all right, season 3 is about mental illness, and it's like, oh, okay, you're just gonna make me cry every episode. Okay, I get what you're doing here. I started The Owl House officially. Like that's a show I've been wanting to watch for many years now as well. Where I'm just like, I hear fantastic things about that show, right up my Disney alley. Yeah, people are right. Like I finished the first season of that show, and it was like, oh, yeah, that was incredible. I'm super happy with that. And yeah, just like you, Agatha's been fantastic. I've really been. That hadn't started when we talked last, right? That was that was right before.
I think we were talking like a few weeks before or something. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that show, Ben?
On Agatha, I've been absolutely loving it. There are like a few problems I have, but they have mainly about out casting stuff, but but that's not important for now. But I've loved the campy, ampy, witchy vibe to it. It reminds me of watching family Halloween films as a kid.
Yeah, it's very like Hocus Pocus. It's very like Twitches and Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's fun.
I'm someone who loves horror films, but when it comes to Halloween, I don't want to watch horror films. I want to watch those family Halloween movies because those give me that nostalgia from my childhood.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same way. I hate scary stuff. Like I don't like being scared, but like I love the like very surface level like themes of scary things that don't actually scare me. So like I love like a Supernatural. I love like Hocus Pocus and a Goosebumps is kind of fun every now and again. So I'm right there with you. I'm absolutely right there with you. But let's actually just jump into some of these news stories. New York Comic Con is going on right now. We don't have any news from New York Comic Con, but in the chat, if anything happens to come out whilst we're talking, if they're like, hey, that Spider-Man trailer comes out, we're like, well, I guess we'll check that out as we're live.
Earlier, I saw some art come out for it. I'm like, okay, that's not that interesting.
I just want to know what it is because they said forever ago it was like November 4th was like the rumored date. I was like,
I remember last year in December there was a influencers only event and there was people from it talking about how how Marvel told them and that in 2024 we would have Echo, Agatha all along, Eyes of Wakanda, on the Spider-Man and freshman year or whatever or it's now called and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they said Ed Marvel Zombies would also come out this year. I'm like, what happened to all these shows?
They've kind of, I think we talked a bit about this last time when we were kind of talking to current staff Marvel. That's literally my biggest issue right now. Is there's so much that we've been announced for years, and it's just like I want to see them. I want to like I am okay with a little bit more Marvel stuff if we don't have to wait like 7 years per project, because I think that burns away the anticipation for me.
Yeah, like I just yesterday I posted on Twitter sign where I was like, I hate how we keep hearing from scoopers that Ubers that continuations of basically everything we want to see. You got to wait till after Secret Wars. Really? That's annoying.
Like in many ways, it's made me be like, as excited I am for these next 2 Avengers movies. I think that's going to be great. It does make me want to be like, okay, but I'm also kind of already tired of Secret Wars, because we've heard that name Secret Wars for like 7-8 years now. It's like all right. So
I really think they should have just like with Infinity War and Endgame, what they should have had it that when they first announced it be for the end of the decade, not at the middle of the decade.
Yeah. I definitely want going forward to know less going in. Not to say they have to make less, but I want to only know about something a couple years in advance before it comes out. Because, and again, it wasn't all their fault. We had COVID, we had strikes, we had Jonathan Majors. Like, there was a lot of stuff that they could not. I understand that completely, but just for next time, hopefully we can get a bit less. All right, we're gonna be jumping into our first news story here. This one came out the other day. I thought was kind of interesting. New action comedy animated DC show is in the works for Cartoon Network. Now, I don't watch a lot of Cartoon Network anymore. I've kind of fallen off of that bandwagon, but I did think this was interesting for a couple of reasons. Because the last 2 animated DC projects that were headed over at Cartoon Network didn't necessarily make their way to Cartoon Network, and that was My Adventures with Superman, which ended up on Adult Swim, which is semi-Cartoon Network-y. It's just kind of another...
It's technically the same network, but...
kind of. And then Caped Crusader, which ended up going... Which they scrapped it, and then was later picked up by Amazon.
Cape Crusader was such I never watched it, but that was such an interesting thing for its development, because from what I remember when it was first announced, it was supposed to be a continuation of Batman the Animated Series, and they were planning on having Kevin Conroy back, but they just kept pushing it to the point where he passed away, so they couldn't get him back to do voice acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from my understanding, what they said, it was they came to them and were like, "Hey, we want to do a sequel to Batman the Anime Series," and they were like, "Actually, we want to do something separate. We don't want to touch such a legend, such a legacy. We want to focus on some of these new stories that can be inspired by Batman the Anime Series," which I'm actually totally okay with. I actually think it's the show's biggest strengths is what it does new and what it's more unique as. And I can understand them being like, this doesn't fit what we want for Cartoon Network, because it does sometimes aim on a little bit more mature in some aspects of it. That's fine. Put it on Max. You have a whole streaming service for stuff like that.
I am perfectly fine with shows not being on Cartoon Network when I don't have access to watch Cartoon Network because I don't have cable anymore.
Sure, that's that. I never had cable growing up. I every Cartoon Network show I watched growing up, it was on DVDs or later on in my childhood when it comes to a Netflix or something like that. But this I did think was kind of interesting. So they're doing a new kind of action comedy cartoon. Cartoon Network's lineup for a while has aimed more for the kiddie demographic, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing. I get the kids need some stuff. I do wonder if, from the sounds of it, this sounds more on a lens of a Justice League action, or something maybe around the same tone as My Adventures with Superman. Is there a DC character you would like to see get their own animated show? What do you think this could maybe be? What's your kind of theories on just this general idea?
Characters I would love to see get their own show. I mean, and this is just because I've been wanting another more over the top, whimsical, funny version of this character for a while. But I would love a Joker animated series.
to cleanse the palate from the new movie that just came out.
Yeah, like I'm not. I've been wanting a over the top whimsical Joker again for a long time, even before this new movie came out. I'm tired of this serious version of Joker that they keep trying to make him more and more serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he is a comedic character. Like, he's a very disturbed character, but he uses that with his comedic tensions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of who I'd want, like if we're going dream situation, I would throw out, I'd love a Flash animated series. I think that would be insanely cool. I'd like a Green Lantern. I'd love Wonder Woman to finally get her due. The fact that we have so many Superman shows at the moment, so many Batman shows. Please don't let this be a Batman show. I don't need another Batman show. But Wonder Woman would be great. I'd like definitely. Something like that. So I think characters that would fit the Cartoon Network mold. I don't know, a Plastic Man. I don't know.
Yeah, Plastic Man, and maybe Shazam, not played by Zachary Levi.
Yep.
Shazam
would actually.
Maybe a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. Something like that could work. Heck, since Cartoon Network has had such success with the Teen Titans brand, a new Teen Titans show that's not Teen Titans Go would be great.
Yeah, and that's tough because they still got Teen Titans Go. It's still going on. I'd be so open to a new generation of new Teen Titans, but they keep going over. I mean, if kids are liking it, then I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. I've enjoyed episodes of Teen Titans Go. I'm not against that show. I just I would like something else as well.
Sure, that's very fair. It could also just be another Justice League-esque show as well, or more of a Super Friends, because they obviously did the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited back in the 90s. Early 2000s, they did that Justice League action show, which I never watched, but I remember it being on and being talked about a little bit. So maybe it's another kind of Justice League or team up kind of thing.
I think that would be very smart to do, especially if they can try and get it on the quality of something like My Adventures with Superman, and so that they can get it to be very popular, or as a way to try and heal the Justice League brand. Because I do think that there's some healing that needs to be done before they try to do another live action Justice League movie down the line in James Gunn's universe.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd argue that for just kind of the DC brand at large, there needs to be a lot of healing with the general public, and I feel like the reception for DC for most people up until this point is still the DC AMU. I feel like when casual audiences think about DC, they're thinking about Kevin Conroy's Batman. You're thinking Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and Batman the anime series and all of these things. And I think that is just because we captured them so young. They captured us so young. Those are what's ingrained in our heads. So if I do feel if we could do that for another, younger generation, they could be oh, Mom, I love watching, I don't know, Wonder Woman on TV. Can we go see this new movie? Can we go see Batman? Can we go see, whatever it may be? So, honestly, yeah, I'd be very open to that.
Now, I want to ask you something that I really enjoyed this past summer watching, and I was wondering if you ended up watching it, is the Kite Man show.
I am really behind on the Harley Quinn verse. I love those first 3 seasons. I think they're really good. I just got behind on season 4. I didn't catch Kite Man.
Understandable.
Harley Quinn season 5 starts next month, I'm pretty sure, which is crazy. So
which is surprising that there hasn't been a trailer for that.
Yeah, I mean, Kite Man was kind of the same though. They kind of put it out a month in advance or something. Yeah. So hopefully soon. I don't know. But yeah, like just kind of final thoughts on this. Also, like it also did kind of cross my mind. They described it as a anime comedy. I was also like, if that's how they also described My Adventures with Superman, I was almost wondering maybe this is some kind of spin-off or kind of like takes place in the same world as that show. So like maybe there's a thing where they introduce another character in that show, and then maybe they they kind of expand that world a little bit if they wanted to. I don't know.
That would be great. I think it would be a really cool to actually have now past the Arrowverse another interconnected DC universe. Or so it could be cool to have it be an animated one.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I want more of that in general. Like, I want Marvel to do that eventually, where we can have like, I'd love that on like the big screen. I'd love obviously have the MCU and then have like this other animated movie universe also going on. That's maybe more comic accurate for those people that want something like that.
And I do think there are characters who actually work best as with animation. I think they would be a lot better than with a live action action. So I want something like that really badly. I also honestly because I think this is a comic that would translate best into an animated film, and I think it would be the easiest to deal with all of the legal issues of doing this as if you did it as an animated film. I want an animated Justice League versus Avengers film.
I have said that I think if there's ever a crossover, I've said this for years, it will be animated. It needs to be
either traditional animation, or I wouldn't even mind if it was a Lego one.
That'd be so good. That'd be so good. But yeah, no, like I've always pitched, like, if you do it, has to be a standalone universe where I think you gather all the iconic voices you would think of these characters. So like if you did it right now in the MCU, people wouldn't like it as much because you would want your Robert Downey, you'd want your Chris Evans, you would want all these iconic voices and versions of these characters. Like, I think it'd be really fun if you did that. You're like, all right, bring in Robert Downey and Chris Evans, and then you bring in, like, if you wanted, you could do like Henry Cavill or like Christian Bale as like these, all of these iconic versions of all these characters. Have it be like maybe a 2-part movie, and then that's it. It's not connected to anything. You don't have to do any follow-ups. You don't have to build.
And I bet that I like that if they made it and released it in theaters, I think it would make money. I think it would make a lot of money.
I think that's $1 billion movie. Yeah, if you just call it, I don't know what you call it. If it's just like Avengers versus Justice League or something, $1 billion movie, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, talking about successful animated films, onto our next thing here. The Wild Robot sequel is in the works at DreamWorks Studios. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if you've seen this movie yet. I loved The Wild Robot.
Oh yeah,
easily my favorite film of this year for me.
It was great. Even though I don't think that it is like the same film by any means. I feel like The Wild Robot could be for the current generation what WALL-E was for our generation in terms of popularity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once a year there's usually one animated movie that I'm like, oh, this is now a cult classic. Like, this is a movie in 20 years or whatever, I'm going to be showing my kids, and they're going to be showing their kids. And I think it's just like last year was like Puss in Boots, and like the year before, or no, last year was Spider-Verse. The year before was like Puss in Boots. I think the year before was Klaus. Like every couple of years, there was like the one where like, oh, like this is the one. And yeah, I adored this movie. And at first, when I came out of the theater, I said, I don't want a sequel to this. Because I just, in that moment, I was like, I don't know how you follow it up. Like, I thought it kind of had this perfect ending and a story about like accepting consequences. I thought was so beautiful. And then people were like, but it's a trilogy of books. And it seems like they're adapting the trilogy of books. So with that logic, I'm like, okay, that's fair, I guess. And I haven't read these books. I don't know what happens in those books. No. If it's good and they want to adapt it and they think they could follow up on this fantastic story that they did here, then go for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, DreamWorks is always an interesting brand for me because I think they either put out some of the greatest films you've ever seen, or just the most mid, surface level, whatever that you could think of. It's no in between. And I think
they've gotten better in recent years. Like because of I'm noticing with films like this and it's like the new Puss in Boots film. It gives me a lot of excitement to see what they do going forward. It makes me very excited for the upcoming Shrek 5.
Yeah. I hope I hope in Shrek 5 they lean more Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and less Kung Fu Panda 4. Because I'll be honest, I was really disappointed going into Kung Fu Panda 4 because I love those films. I think it's
lacking. I think it's the best word for Kung Fu Panda 4.
Yeah, I was very excited because I think Puss in Boots raised the bar for DreamWorks. I was like, oh, this is what you're capable of? Okay, I am lifting up my expectations for you as a studio because you have shown me what you can do, and Rob Robot has even done that even more. My expectations are high, and then Kung Fu Panda 4, a franchise that's known for putting out some of the best animated movies of all time, in my opinion. I was like, oh, they got this in the bag. It's going to be fantastic. And then it was like, oh, okay, that felt more straight to DVD than what I'm used to.
Yeah, and also, with Kung Fu Panda 4, I was like, going out of it, I very much was like, that's it? Because that's it. Both because of not having a Furious 5, but also because it just felt like a really short film. Versus the other films in the franchise didn't feel like they were that short.
Yeah, they, there was a lot of it seemed like there's a lot of various behind the scenes things. There was even a thing that came out that said that they were it was almost a live action CG movie, and that was like a what? That to me screams, oh, there was weird production things. People were pitching weird things for that movie that probably wasn't in the movie's best interest. So I'm hoping they can clear that up for Kung Fu Panda 5 because Kung Fu Panda 5 is confirmed. I'm glad because I don't want Kung Fu Panda 4 to be the one that kind of leaves off on. I want you to kind of it's rumored that 5 and 6 it's going to do a new trilogy kind of thing. So 5 and 6. I would like Redemption after that one. Obviously not the worst movie I've ever seen, but I was disappointed. But yeah, no, Wild Robot. I mean, are you good for a sequel? Is that something that you want to see?
Yeah, that sure. Or it's not saying that I'm be like, give it to me right now. But but I'm like, yeah, sure, sure. I've always been someone who's of the opinion of unless there's an actual real problem with having a sequel all the time, I'm very okay with having sequels to things because whether I personally care about a sequel or not, I know there are people out there who are going to love that, and I want and for their sake, I want it for them. And the only situations where I'm like, I really am like, I don't want a sequel. I don't think there should be a sequel. Is when there's a situation when it's something like Morbius, where I hate the star of that film.
Yeah, I'm just genuinely curious because again, I don't know the books, I don't know the source material that they've kind of based all of this on. Because to me, what I loved so much about this movie was that it is a story about consequences, and it is a movie about hey, sometimes life actually sucks, and you can't control the cards that you're dealt, and characters having to kind of move on from those consequences. I think is a fascinating thing to show to kids. I think that's so not even just kids. I think everybody. Yeah.
And a particular thing that stood out to me is that showing how when the world is not made for you, it makes it so that you are more able to change as needed to particularly with moments where the one of the main characters in that he had to lead all these other birds because since the world was made for all the rest of those birds, they had no idea what to do when they had to all of a sudden change.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point where it's like, yes, the world isn't made for you, so you have to work harder to get to that point to everybody else. And that's an unfair truth about the world, but it's so important that kids see that. It's so important, especially now that diversity is being portrayed so much better now. It's so important to be like, yes, you're not going to have the advantages of everybody else, and that's okay. That's what's going to ultimately be your strength, which is a beautiful message for kids to see. Absolutely. Alrighty, let's move on to our next thing here. This is probably the biggest news of this week. I was not expecting this to be the controversy of the week, if I'm gonna be honest. Crypto the Super Dog. First look at Crypto, an upcoming James Gunn Superman film. I could not believe that this was the hot topic of the week. That we are full on debates about Crypto the Super Dog. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, there was you have had both some people who are like, oh, he's not the right breed of dog, and then there are other people who are just like the Snyder cult, and they're like Crypto shouldn't be in there at all. What? This is so dumb.
It's so okay. So like, I actually was a little thrown off when I first saw it, just because it's not what I'm used to with Crypto. Because it is a different look.
Yeah.
I saw. I was like, huh. Okay, I'm in. Like, I can understand the disappointment. I think disappointment's okay with a thing like this, where it's like, it's not what you're expecting. It's different. It's unique. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I feel like the controversy stemmed from the mainly from the fact that this is a breed of dog that's very much supposed to be cute and not fierce, and they think, oh, it's Crypto must be fierce looking. If you've ever actually watched the Crypto animated series from like 20 years ago, you know that though he was somewhat that breed of dog that looked fierce, he's always been supposed to be cute and and lovable. Not he's not supposed to be like this serious thing.
Right. Yeah. No. And like, yeah. Again, like I can understand being disappointed. Like when you have something in your head that you think it's supposed to look like, and it doesn't look like that. I can understand maybe, having a bit of that disappointment. I ultimately don't think it's a big deal, though. I think we're going to see this movie. I don't think this Crypto controversy isn't even going to be at the top of our mind when this movie comes out. Like I've heard the criticism that like James Gunn basing it off of his own dog is, too much personality into the movie. I don't have an issue with that either. He's just kind of basing it off of what he knows.
I don't understand. I don't understand people's like hatred for things like that and James Gunn uncasting his friends and things. It's like every director does that. Every director puts their friends and stuff.
Absolutely. That is like like that's been the one criticism where like I can understand if you're casting your best friend as Superman or Lois Lane. Like if that's the case, okay, you know what? I understand. But I think these side characters, these characters that aren't going to have a huge role, people were mad at his wife. Like how dare he cast his wife in this role? It's like nobody even heard of that character before the Suicide Squad or like Peacemaker ever came out. Like it's just such a minor character. Like
they were mad at her appearing in Black Adam, even though he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
He
And
did not ask them to put her in that.
Like, I think there would be a bias. Like I think there would be an argument there if she wasn't a good character. Like, if she was a bad actress or if she wasn't a good character, I'd say she's a great character and she kills the role. Like, she does a great job at that performance. So, yeah, it's I think it's all going to pass, right? I think most of these conversations happen because there isn't a lot to talk about right now. We are still in the production stage. We're getting closer. We are more than halfway there at this point.
I do think, though, that James Gunn is announcing way too much for the upcoming DCU. Just because it's like it just when you announce that much, it gives off the vibe of are we ever gonna actually see all of these things that you're telling us about?
Yeah, they've already kind of fallen into the Marvel thing that we already talked about, where it's like there's a lot right now, and we're still a good ways away from seeing 99% of those things. And they're already better on track than Marvel's been, because Creatures comes out in a couple weeks or a couple months at this point. Superman's 8 months away. Like they're working on it. They're getting things done, and that's good. I'm excited for that. But I agree, because we're now a good, counting Elseworld stuff, we're nearly 20 projects into like DC Studios, and that is a lot. That is a lot of projects. But I'm excited for this. I'm glad Crypto's coming. I think. How big of a role do you think Crypto's going to play in this movie?
I can't imagine it's a very big one. But did James Gunn say whether Crypto is CGI or if he's actually having his real life dog play him?
From my understanding, it's inspired by his dog. Like, I don't think it's the exact dog that he owns at home. I think it's like based on like the figures of his dog, the same breed, the same kind of look. I don't know. I think it's a real dog. I would assume.
The reason I ask is because I think that's the depending factor for whether or not he has a big role, because we've seen all of these set photos from the Superman set, and there's no Crypto to be seen. And if he's CGI, he may have a big role, but if he's not, I don't think he does.
Yeah, I guess it depends if he has powers, because I feel like depending on the adaptation, some Cryptos are just a dog, and some are like Crypto sent from Krypton down to Earth to Kal-El, where he So I'll be curious on that regard.
I would assume he's gonna have powers just because of the having his
he's in space right
first
now.
His face for that first look photo.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. Yeah, I'll be curious. In Guardians, was Cosmo CGI or was he?
I don't remember if Cosmo was. I think he might have been in real. Because I seem to remember there being a picture floating around online of both the dog who played Cosmo and the dog who played played the pizza dog and Hawkeye together.
Right. I tried to look it up, but nothing's coming up. Oh well, I'll look at that. I'll look that up later. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm very excited for Crypto. I'm ready for that movie. And yeah, our final piece of news here. I'm not sure if you watched the show or not, but I did at least want to bring it up and talk about it. Invincible Season 3 finds itself a February 6th release date with new teaser. Now, firstly, are you a fan of the show at all, or is this one you haven't seen?
I love the Invincible show. To me, it feels like the kind of like action comedy cartoons that I would watch as a kid, but as if they'd grown up with me.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Obviously, like not like there's a lot more blood than like that we've watched, but I think like the actual tone of it feels very similar to me as something like Ben 10.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Like I've had it, over the years when people would be like, oh, like what do you want to see from the future of Ben 10? People would point to Invincible and be like, yeah, I want something like that. I don't want Ben 10 with like that much blood and gore and swearing.
Not that much blood on and gore and swearing, but like that, but just that tone and him dealing with like some more adult things like things like they in Invincible, obvious like they don't like actually show things like sex, but they talk about things like that,
right?
And that makes it feel like it has grown up. And I think things like small things like that had to really make it feel like as an adult would be a perfect for a continuation of Ben 10 that's for adults.
Sure. Yeah, no, like I think to me this show changed the game in terms of like, to me, when I thought of adult animated shows, I was like, I don't like them because I don't like, the Family Guy, the South Park, the blah blah blah, and the blah, like those just aren't my style of kind of shows and comedy. And this show showed me, and Harley Quinn a little bit too, because I think they were more in the direction I like as well. But like this was like, oh, it doesn't have to just be this raunchy humor show. You can have a regular TV show that's just upped what you can do in a TV show. Like you can just have a higher rated cartoon like that, and to me that really raised the bar. I was very excited when they said that season 3 will not have season 2 won't have as long of a hiatus that they had in between seasons 1 and 2. I'm very glad they were right with that. It aired at the end of summer or the start of summer, and we're getting it February 6th, very beginning of next year. Yeah. Are you excited for this next season? Are you going to be tuning in?
Absolutely excited. I don't know what to expect with it because I've never read the comic, but I'm excited for it. Really, when it came after season 1, all I knew going into season 2 was that there was that people had told me that there was a villain that was multiversal and that he had teamed up with Spider-Man in the comics. I was like, well, that would be fun to see. That didn't exactly happen, but it kind of did.
They got as close as they could.
Yeah, I did, but I'm excited to see whatever the future holds for this show.
Yeah, what's really excited to me about what they've said. I hope this isn't a spoiler. It's not a spoiler, but I hope this is not more than you want to know. They've said that every episode in season 3 will feel like a season finale, and to me, that's like, whoa! Like if the Invincible's finales are insane. So what do they have in store for next season? I'm excited.
I think the one thing, particularly about season 2 that nobody really talked about that much other than me, because a lot of other people who watch the show actually did read the comic, but I was upset about like how quick Mark was to forgive his father. Like I feel like he didn't deserve forgiveness so quick. There needed to be some more of him having a redemption arc, and now but hopefully we get some more of him like actually trying to be good in this in season 3. I'm also like one of my favorite characters in Invincible is I think his name is Adam, which is Seth Rogen's character, the one-eyed guy. I love him so much. I'm hoping that since he's seemingly teaming up with Mark's dad, that maybe that means he's gonna have more screen time this season.
I think Alan's gonna have a little bit more to do next season. I mean, he had a lot more in season 2 than he did season 1.
Oh yeah, definitely. He had an entire episode devoted to himself in season 2.
That was fun.
And he got to have Tatiana Maslany as his wife.
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, I mean, I think what they were trying to kind of get across is just how complicated of a situation that was for Mark. Like, I don't think he necessarily forgave his dad, but also he didn't want him to get like executed at the same time, even if he did deserve that.
Yeah,
even if that is what he deserves, I think the relationship between a father and son is just so hard, because like, yes, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be mad, but can you truly be mad at them forever? Like, it's definitely a very tough story to tell, and I'm just, with how everything left off, I'm so excited for the new season. My good friend Chatterbox Reviews. Chatterbox, how's it going? Hey guys, how are you doing? We're doing good, man. Thank you so much for being here. They ask, just been catching up on Fallout recently. I remember you discussing it, Darren, where you were a fan, right? I was a fan. I think it's one of the better shows. It's still my top 5 shows of 2024 so far. Thought it was excellent. Absolutely amazing. I don't know if they started anything for season 2 yet, but I'm excited for whenever they do, because first season was great. Did you see it yet or no?
Oh yeah, I've watched it. I really liked it a lot. Yeah, it was a very short show. I'm hoping that we can get season 2 sooner rather than later.
I'm hoping season 2's weekly, because I as good as it was, I think it would have made a better week-to-week discussion show than just like, it's all out now, just binge it all. And I was like, well, that would have been nice to talk about week-to-week, I feel like. But But yeah, with that being said, we're gonna go into our main topic for the episode, and that is The Incredible Hulk 2008's I just want to read this really quickly. Completely agree. That's part of the reason I fell behind on it, I think. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. It's hard. Those like binge shows are really, really hard to make room in your schedule to watch like 8 hours of TV in like 1 week. But no, 2008's Incredible Hulk, the second installment in the MCU, and I feel like this is, I think, one of the weirdest MCU movies, kind of looking back on it, because like we're saying at the beginning, it is the black sheep of the MCU. Now 2 out of the 3 like main leads almost have been recasted in the MCU, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But what's your kind of overall, just general opinions on 2008's The Incredible Hulk?
It's all right, but it's nothing amazing to me. It's definitely my least favorite iteration of Hulk in the MCU.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of like both how serious the film is, and also also how much they really tried to make him look like a roided out bodybuilder monster, instead of like having more soft a more soft Hulk, because as like Hulk really is a child when you down to it. So it's more soft features I like so much better for Hulk. If that makes sense.
Again, we were talking about this at the top. Like, I watched it back in like 2018, 2019. I'm still kind of a teenager at this point. I'm like, all right, very edgy. And like, I remember like everyone was just like, yeah, this is like one of the worst MCU movies ever. This is bottom tier. This is, whatever. And I remember kind of like agreeing with that, being like, yeah, this is dumb. I don't like this one. It kind of just always kind of kept at the bottom of my MCU list. And this was when I was very excited to revisit, because I was like, all right, after all these years, we're almost 50 projects into the MCU at this point, depending what you count as canon or not canon. I was like, will my opinion change after all these years, after all these things happening with the Hulk over the years? What's going to be my take on the character? I like this actually a lot more than I thought I would. What I really enjoyed about this one And I feel like what some of these superhero movies are doing now, where they're trying to make some different kind of superhero movies. The Hulk, outside of, I guess, the third act, is very different than a lot of superhero movies you see nowadays. It isn't like the templated Marvel movie you typically see. It's like an escape movie. It's a movie that is from the POV of Ross, and I actually think that is kind of a brilliant idea. Like, I think it is slightly ahead of its time in terms of like now we're getting a lot of like, oh, we don't want to see the origin story of Spider-Man. Oh, we don't want to see the origin stories of Superman or Batman or whatever. And they did that. And I remember back when they did it, they got flack for it. Everyone's like, where's the origin story? Why don't we get to see how it happened and, from when it happened and blah, blah, blah. This isn't an origin story. This takes place a while after he becomes the Hulk. We don't actually technically get to see it.
It kind of saddens me, though, that we've never once in live action got the actual origin of Hulk, because they has with Hulk in live action it's they've always, instead of like going and doing the actual comic origin of of Bruce Banner being a scientist in the desert as they're trying to create a gamma bomb for the military. They usually go for something like he's still a scientist and working for the government, but it's completely different what they're doing with it, and they keep trying to make it look like it's the same as the origin from the 70s TV show, instead of because as I was very popular, but I think I want to see an actual comic accurate one where he's working in the desert and working on the gamma bomb, and they're testing the gamma bomb, so he has to go out into the desert where they're testing it and save this guy who's out there, and that's what turns him into the Hulk. I want to see that in live action, but but for some reason, over all of the times he's been adapted, they refuse to do that.
Sure, and it's definitely tough because I feel like Hulk doesn't have the same exposure as your Superman, your Spider-Man, your Batman. He hasn't had the same amount of, I guess, reboots and stuff that you don't get to see these various different adaptations of the character. I am by far not an expert in the Hulk comics. Like, mainly what I've seen in the MCU is kind of I've seen like the animated stuff as well, but like I don't know the grand lore of everything. But I did enjoy, like, I think the balls this one does have of like skipping over it a little bit and being like, you know what, we're not telling a story where you'd think we would start the story. We're actually just kind of tell the story from this point in his Hulk journey. He's still seemingly pretty early on, but like not.
The whole reason they did that is because this film was actually originally developed to be a sequel to the 2003 film.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense then. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when they decided to have it connect to Iron Man and to start the MCU, they're like, we're gonna scrap that, but we're gonna still keep some details just to confuse fans. As he starts the film in Brazil, which is where Bruce Banner is at the very end of the 2003 film.
Gotcha. I haven't seen the 2003 film, so I can't comment on that one. Which, I mean, do you like the 2003 one? Because I've heard
like it. I like it better than this one.
Oh wow!
It's not perfect, but I do like it a lot better than this one. And and one thing about the 2003 film that I love that they haven't really done anything with in the MCU is in the comics, Bruce Banner has had an abusive father, and the 2003 film actually made that abusive father be the villain of the film.
Wow. is he is he like an actual villain, or is he just kind of like an antagonist for Bruce?
He is absolutely a villain.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out at some point. I just haven't got around to it over the years, but
understandable.
Yeah, I'll have to do it at some point. Maybe if we ever do like a World War Hulk movie, maybe I'll be like, all right, let's catch up on all my Hulk material. It is very interesting, kind of like looking back at the second MCU movie of all time, where Hulk, I feel like especially phase 1, there is a lot of kind of hulky kind of things. Ross is very present, and you have all these things. Where I feel like later in the MCU, they definitely abandon a lot of the Hulkness that you expected to be a major part of it. Obviously, he's Bruce Banner's in a lot. Mark Ruffalo went on to do a lot of these Hulk appearances, but still, after what is it, almost 20 years, this is the only Hulk movie in the MCU, which is crazy.
Yeah. And it's that every Hulk fan that I've interacted with, they're annoyed by the lack of Hulk films.
Yeah, to me, and we talked about this last time, so we wanted to talk about it too long, but like it does feel like there's something in the air where it's like I feel like it's coming soon. I do feel like maybe after Secret Wars, there's something. I don't know. It just feels like maybe there's been rumors that they've come to a deal with Universal or something. I don't know.
And these rumors about World War Hulk film, they have persisted since early summer of 2022, and it's like the fact that they've been around this much, the fact that they're literally in the She-Hulk finale was a reference where she was like, "You save that for the movie." It just makes me think they have to be planning something.
Yeah, I think they've been kind of, and again, like we said at the front, like so many things were interrupted by like a COVID or like a not really knowing what to do with Avengers, and just I don't know, just trying to make their way through Secret Wars at this point. Just trying to like, all right, get to this. Like it almost feels like they're trying to get to like a safe spot, where it's like, okay, we're at the safe spot. Now we can move forward to the MCU. Now we can do all these kind of storylines that we want to do. Yeah, from my understanding, they are still with Universal.
Yeah. So how with the Hulk rights, how it works is Universal has distribution rights to the Hulk, meaning Marvel can still use him in any project they want. They just can't have Hulk in the title, and they and also though if they want to make a Hulk film, they have to do a deal with Universal, where they have to produce it. But then because Universal is distributing it, legally, unless a deal is made, Universal would get all the profits from the film, and so that's the big thing stopping a Hulk film from happening is that Universal won't play ball. They refuse to let Marvel Studios have some of the profit from it. Even though Marvel Studios would be the ones actually producing the film, actually putting all the money into it.
Yeah. Business wise, that makes absolutely no sense. And we hate on Disney for being all like profit, but like in that instance, like you're not going to put all that work, time, effort into a project you're not going to make any financial come back with, especially with Bob Iger back in the chair. Like he's gonna look at it and be like, no.
That was one of the big reasons why the original Spider-Man deal fell apart. Was Disney was like, we're putting up all the capital for this. We want to have a bit more of the money that actually comes out of it. And so he's like, no, we'll just do Spider-Man stuff ourselves. So I was like, you can try. That's not going to work very well, but you can try.
Yeah. Oh, thank God they fixed that up. Thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness, because we never would have got No Way Home, probably. I
Mm-hmm.
assume. I mean, I think he had one more contract with them, so maybe they could have. But like, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad they fixed that up. And I wanna see a world where they can get. I don't know, because it seems like
I hope that whatever next contract they do for Spider-Man, I hope it's one where they get into the contract that he can appear in Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
Because there have been multiple times with different Disney Plus shows where I'm like, I want Spider-Man to appear in this, but he can't appear because of Sony.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, we obviously had She-Hulk. We're about to have Daredevil. Him not being in Daredevil is gonna suck because I really wanted that cameo. Cameron, I think that's also true. Yeah, they have Namor, which I used to thought, I was like, oh, they're introducing Namor. He's obviously gonna get his own movie. They're gonna do that, which I'd love, but like, I don't know. They'll probably throw him in like Avengers or something, just to, do something.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back on track with the with the movie itself, again, like there's a lot of like various different things here. It's fun looking back on. Like, it's very interesting seeing Ross after all these years, obviously now having been recast as Harrison Ford in the next Captain America movie. Are you a fan of Ross in like the MCU?
I have a love-hate relationship with Ross in the MCU. On one hand, I love the performance that William Hurt did. On the other hand, I hate William Hurt.
Right.
I for reasons that I will not go into, about stuff that happened in the 80s. I've really enjoyed his performance, and I think a part of why I loved him so much as Ross is because there were no other roles that I really knew William Hurt from. So when I thought of William Hurt, all I thought of was Ross.
Yeah.
Versus that's my big problem with Harrison Ford or coming in as Ross is. I know Harrison Ford's face way too much, so I feel like it's gonna be hard when actually watching a film to see him as Ross.
Yeah, I agree actually, because like, controversies aside, like, yeah, I agree with you. All the things you hear about him, yeah, that's very unfortunate. I do think he was a fantastic Ross, actually. Like, performance only aside, I don't know if he got the, I don't want to say respect, but like the credit he was due, because I actually think he was a very well casted Ross, and it is even a little bit disappointing at times that like I would have liked to have seen what his version of the Red Hulk would have looked like, because I do think he would have made a very good Red Hulk, and I agree with you. Harrison Ford, I think, is going to do a great job. I think this is going to be like that press tour is going to be hilarious. I don't see him as Ross. I see Han Solo and Indiana Jones and every various thing. He's too popular at this point. I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as with Robert Downey Jr. being a Dr. Doom. It's like, are you really going to see him as Dr. Doom when you're watching it, or are you going to see him as Robert Downey Jr.? Because and
that's the thing with that too, is like, but like that's also the thing is like people are like, oh, but like he's not going to convince the audience he's Dr. Doom and not Iron Man. I don't think you're supposed to. I think the whole reason you cast him is that he's to the characters in the movie that is Iron Man, and they're gonna see him be like, Tony Stark, is that you? Like, that's why they're doing that. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not gonna say I like that they're doing that. But I'm not saying that's the reason that they're doing that.
And I do think there are some times where you can cast a big actor as a role, and it still work. But then I think there are other times where it's just like, this actor is someone who I just see as that actor. An example of an actor who I do think actually, even though he is a big actor, I would not mind him in a role is Daniel Radcliffe. If I've been on the board of him as Wolverine for a while, but honestly, any role that he or him in the MCU, I'd be happy with that. Because Daniel Radcliffe is an actor who has proven that he can play any kind of role and make it feel different. Yes, make it feel different. Like, there are a lot of people, because they haven't seen any of his stuff after Harry Potter, they're like, oh, I just see him as Harry Potter. If you would watch some of the stuff that I've seen him in since then, you would not see him as just Harry Potter anymore. I've seen him as a farting corpse.
Right.
Like,
I mean, he did Weird Al, and he did a fantastic job at there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you don't, and when you're watching that, he really does feel like he's Weird Al. He doesn't feel like he's just Daniel Radcliffe.
Right. Yeah, we also had the villain of the movie, which was Emil Blonsky, which obviously we saw return. I was about to say more recently, but it's been a couple years at this point in She-Hulk. And when that was happening, well, let's be real.
As well as Shang-Chi.
That is right. That was actually a very nice like surprise. Mm-hmm. Was that after She-Hulk or was that before?
No, that was before. And they actually I think it was really cool how they did it, but they connected that to She-Hulk,
right?
As a way to mess up his case for trying to get out.
His parole, yeah, that is right. Holy shit, that was great. Yeah, I obviously that was a very controversial thing with him in the show. A lot of people loved a lot of people thought they fixed him. A lot of people thought they made him worse in that show. Him as just a villain in the MCU, what's your kind of I guess opinion on him?
I think he's all right. He's definitely not the worst villain, but I don't think he's anything special.
Sure. I think this is a case of I like the concept way more than the execution. Like, when I think of Abomination, I'm like, oh yeah, it was such a cool villain. That final fight with him and Hulk is fantastic, actually. I think it's one of the better final fights in an MCU movie. But yeah, him as a character is kind of Emil as a character, I think is kind of boring. He's kind of doesn't have much personality. He's kind of I don't know. I guess we don't really get into so much why he's doing what he's doing in this movie. Or is it he kind of, we dive into a thing where I want, the strength I had when I was young with the brain I have now. And it's okay, but why? Why? What is your motivation for wanting more power, more strength? What is it just to have it? Because that's kind of a little lame, now, I feel like.
Do you like his personality better in this or in She-Hulk? Because they are very different personalities.
They're very different. I think that's the thing, because it does feel like a massive jump between one and to the other. I think in general, I like She-Hulk more, because he is a more fun, interesting character there. But I can also understand people who didn't like it, because it's that feels like a different character. I can be you know what? That's a valid criticism.
Yeah.
I understand, if
I think the best thing they did with him since after Incredible Hulk, so with both Shang-Chi and She-Hulk, is they updated the design for Abomination, because this is not a good looking design for him. He's very ugly in this versus he really does look like the comic Abomination in both Shang-Chi and She-Hulk.
Yeah, he's more fish-like here, in the newer ones than he is. Yeah, I mean, I not really knowing the comics too well, I do kind of like how it looks here. I like the spikes up the back, but I do like later on how I think they look two very different creatures. Where in this one they feel hey, it's Hulk and then Hulk with spikes kind of thing. There's not too much to I guess interchange them.
No, speaking of that final fight. Sign I've been thinking about for the past few years, since She-Hulk came out, and they had all those scenes of her trying to get Emil Blonsky out of prison. How do you think Luke Cage feels about all of this that's happened? Because of him being from Harlem, I imagine he would not be happy about Emil Blonsky getting let out of prison, and not only that, but I feel like if I were him, I would think that there's some kind of inside plot going on, because we have one of the two people who worked to destroy Harlem being helped get out of prison by the cousin of the other person who was destroying Harlem.
Yeah, some kind of conspiracy theory going on there.
I feel like that would be very. You would definitely think something like that, and because of that, it makes me like really want to see if they ever do like a She-Hulk season 2 or something. I want to see him come to Los Angeles and try to fight She-Hulk over it, because he's mad at her for getting Emil Blonsky out of prison.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, I just want Luke Cage back in general. Oh, yeah. That'd be nice. I haven't finished his show all the way through.
A big part of it is just an excuse to try and get him back.
Just throw him in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, I liked him here. I do hope we see Abomination again. Like I've been kind of thinking like I think I could see a cameo in Thunderbolts. Like I could see maybe.
Yeah, I'm like it's the Thunderbolts thing. It's like such a weird thing. When that was first announced, everybody was thinking he was going to be on the team, and then they didn't have him in the trailer or in the promotional stuff at all. And it just makes me wonder, like what is their plan for him? And part of me thinks he fits the tone of that film, but does he fit things location-wise? Because he, as of the end of She-Hulk, he should now be like staying in Comatage or something, because of Wong breaking him out of prison.
Right. Yeah, I think they really wanted for that at least first movie to be this kind of like more grounded spy thrillery type movie, and honestly, I think that's super valid of them. I love that trailer. So I can understand, but I could also see like little cameos of various villains. Like maybe they go like, maybe there's a chart somewhere with like potential people they almost had on the team. Like I'd love like a little like Punisher cameo or like reference or something, like Zemo and Abomination.
Yeah, Zemo, like I think the three cameos that I'm most like, I want there to be at least something from them in the Thunderbolts is Abomination, Zemo, and Sharon Carter. Because I want to know what's going on with Sharon Carter.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she's in Cap 4, perhaps? I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. That makes sense, I guess. Or reference. Yeah, because she turned at the end, right? Like, it was...
Yeah, she is the power broker.
Yeah.
So she's definitely a villain now. And I'm wondering whether like she's working with Val or not. Another cameo I would like to see in the Thunderbolts movie is Kingpin, because I very much believe that him and Val are working together, because I think that even though they didn't actually reference Val in Hawkeye, I think he has to be connected to Val, because Val is who gave Yelena the kill thing for Hawkeye. But then in the Hawkeye show, they act like it was Kingpin working with Kate's mom. So I think there has to be a connection between Kingpin and Val.
I am curious to kind of see how far the Kingpin thing spreads, because, like, again, it was rumored it was supposed to be like Echo was like a part 1, Darrow part 2, Spider-Man part 3. That seems like that's no longer the case. You know, if the idea is that this thing affects every kind of vigilante street level kind of character, you know, that spreads a lot of places. I think that spreads all the way from like She-Hulk.
Yeah,
I think that spreads to Hawkeye. You know,
and it kind of seems like Val might be the new owner of the Avengers Tower. So so they're gonna be in New York. So
right, there's connections there. What's your thoughts on Betty? I'm sorry, I completely blanked. Betty Ross, the kind of main love interest of this movie. I'll be honest, I really have not thought about Betty in many, many years. Like, she kind of shows up in this movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's you.
I'm like, I'm 50-50 on her. On one side, I do like like her performance. I think that they have chemistry together.
Yeah.
But I understand the criticisms that people have made of her, or of her being a stereotypical damsel in distress kind of character.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think she certainly does have chemistry. I think those two are fun. I do think they, I think it works for the movie that they had. I would have liked to have seen her continue to be the main love interest of Bruce through the MCU. I'm someone who does not like Natasha and Bruce very much. I think, I don't know, just kind of very vanilla to me, and it never really went nowhere. I would have liked to have seen her elsewhere. I know she's in Captain America 4. Yeah, she'll be in Captain America 4, so Redemption, maybe? I don't know.
If she had continued in the MCU, I think that they could have, like, very much surpassed that kind of stereotype of stereotypical love interest, stereotypical damsel in distress sort of thing, because she's a scientist. They can have her do sciencey things as well.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if they somehow, like, retrospectively kind of got her and Bruce back together, or like they kind of repaired those two together, because again, they were pushing the Nat and Bruce thing very hard for so many years, and that never really picked up the ground, and that's dead at this point. Bruce is alone. Maybe they could do that if they want to.
Now another character from this that I'm wondering, would you ever want to see him return, is Betty's love interest from the first half of the film, of Ty Burrell, because that character in the comics goes on to be a character named Doc Samson, who is a super powered therapist.
Wow, that's fun. I saw him. I was like, Phil from Modern Family? I don't remember you in here at all. That's crazy. Sure, if they're going to adapt something like that could be fun. You could kind of like repurpose that character. Is he like a hero, or is he a villain?
Yeah, he's a hero. He's been like in like multiple Hulk comics. He's helped Hulk through some like therapy sort of stuff. Like there was it was even a moment where he had like where he went inside Bruce's head and did a sort of couples therapy session with both Bruce and Hulk there, as well as a couple other ones of the alters.
It's giving me like a Powerless vibes. I'm I'm thinking like pitch it like a Disney Plus comedy, a therapist from the perspective in a superhero world where it's like he has to like, a Hulk just picked up my car and now I'm sad or whatever. Like, I don't know.
I want to show you real quick actually like what Doc Samson looks in the comics, because he is hilarious how he looked. let me see if I can get the picture.
There should be like
yeah.
there's a share screen. Okay, yeah, that works too.
Yeah,
oh yeah. Ooh, okay. All right.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun to, especially if he had his own Disney Plus show. Seeing Ty Burrell get a long haired green, I think that would be hilarious.
That'd be fun. I mean, I feel like just like I feel like there's a bit of that now where it's just like, okay, it's the MC, like it's Phil from Modern Families in Marvel now. Okay, come see what he's up to. I don't know. That'd be fun, maybe.
Someone actually made fan art of what that could look like.
That is very funny. That's very funny. I love that for him. I thought he was a fun little side character in this movie. I actually really liked the scene with him and Ross, where he's just like, "Well, I always wondered why she never talked about you. I see. Like you're a dick." Like I thought it was actually a nice scene. Definitely. I think. Like I really appreciate him being kind of like a competent character and not just like, oh, it's my shitty new boyfriend just to pass the time while I wait for Bruce to come back. Like I feel like that's a trope in a lot of these, and you know, Spider-Man 3 did that a lot. Where like, oh, you know, MJ gets with this other boyfriend just for now while she's kind of waiting for Peter to come back and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. Is there anything from this movie we haven't talked about that you would like to bring up? It's a pretty basic movie. Like, there's not like a whole lot of things to talk about, but
I don't know. There's the Tony Stark cameo at the end, and I think that's honestly like a really cool scene. But more so when you actually understand the context of it, because you would just assume watching this film that it's about him recruiting Hulk to be part of the Avengers. It's not. It's about him recruiting Abomination to be part of the Avengers. Have you ever seen the one shot that where the consultant is what it's called?
I've seen a couple of those, but I'm not sure if I've seen that one.
So the consultant is this one shot where it's about Agent Sitwell and Agent Coulson sitting in a diner, and they are talking to each other about this meeting between Ross and Tony. They so the World Security Council wanted Shield to get Abomination to be on the Avengers, and Shield though understand that the Abomination, he should not be on the Avengers. He's way too dangerous. So they sent someone in to try and convince Ross to let him be on the Avengers, who's so arrogant that they knew that even if Ross would refuse.
Gotcha. That's fun.
Yeah.
Those like one shots were really cool because they got to really, you know, give you a couple, you know, nitpick or not nitpick, but like little tiny things that you couldn't quite get in the movies. Those little, very much felt like a precursor to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it's like, well, just kind of little things to kind of prep you for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, no, I mean, I really like the first act. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I really I really like the first act of this movie. Like, I really like the kind of like running away, trying to find peace, finding their own fit. Like, I love every bit of like the like meditation stuff throughout the movie, and like that first act where it's like trying to escape the government and these people that I have offended, and also the added threat of like I could transform at any moment and put all these people in risk, and having to worry about the heartbeat, like slowing down and speeding up, slowing. Like, I thought that was a really, really cool thing that I don't know if any of the other Hulk movies have kind of dived into that, but I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah, this is like really the only kind of Hulk movie and like any kind of Hulk thing, because this isn't really a thing in the comics, but where they instead of it being actually anger, it's just heart rate.
Right.
And that's but yeah, but I think that's cool somewhat. But I like the anger thing more, for it to just be anger. So so I think it's cool for one film, but I'm glad that they didn't continue with that being the thing.
Right. Yeah, because they really don't touch on that at all in the MCU. Like, come Avengers, he's like, "That's my secret captain. I'm always angry," and just transforms.
Though does actually kind of follow up from this, because we have because the one of the final scenes in this is supposed to show that he has now controlled his anger, anger, as his in that last scene in the cabin, as his eyes turn green, and it was supposed to show that he's now was able to control when he turns and doesn't.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, I think I am really glad I rewatched this one. I think I've given it a much better perspective now. I think I can go a little easier on this one than I have been in the past. And I'm just so curious to see kind of how it stacks up for me as I kind of rewatch some more of these MCU movies. And yeah, and you wanted to do a thing here at the end where we talk about what our favorite kind of appearances of the Hulk in the MCU are, right?
Yeah, so so I at least I wrote down for myself of like a ranking of my of the Hulk appearances. This is easily my least favorite one. Then the next one above that, I think I'll go with the She-Hulk finale appearance, just because there's not a lot there to say about it. And then Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Age of Ultron, and then for my top four is Avengers Endgame, and because I actually like Professor Hulk a lot, unlike a lot of people. Then Thor Ragnarok, the Avengers, and my number one is She-Hulk Episode 1.
Okay.
I loved the of the characterization of him in She-Hulk Episode 1.
Alrighty. I didn't end up ranking mine. I'm trying to look here. I think my favorite is probably Ragnarok, maybe, just because I do really like the dynamic of what they did with like Hulk and Thor. I think their back and forth is fun. Getting to see that like giant fight with him and Thor were a lot of fun. The more comedic Hulk I thought really fit him well. I actually really like him in She-Hulk. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Professor Hulk. He doesn't get it's like, I think it's very much that thing with like Superman over on Supergirl, where it's like, why isn't he like this? Where I'm like, well, it's not a show. This is a She-Hulk show. He's not going to be exactly like you typically see him.
And, but also though, he's like, there are different iterations of Hulk in the comics. There are times in the comics where he is like Professor Hulk. He isn't just a rage monster all the time.
Right. Oh yeah. And like I think ideally you would see that journey. Like, that's, I think, the problem with Hulk a little bit in the MCU is just we don't necessarily get to see that journey. There's so many gaps in between.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, I love the pitch of Professor Hulk, but I wanted to see a little bit more of it. Like, I think, like, that would have been such a fascinating movie to see. Like, I would have loved a movie in between Infinity War and Endgame, seeing that journey. Maybe even this, like, Mindscape type thing where it's, like, trying to commune with the other guy kind of thing. Like, that would be, for me, amazing. I love him in Avengers as well. That might be my favorite one. It's either that or Ragnarok. I think him in Avengers, how he works with the other players, his iconic moment when he's punching the ship is like top tier MCU for me.
Yeah, like before She-Hulk came out, I would have absolutely said that the Avengers was my favorite, because I love his characterization, that he has such a fun personality, and you really get to see really so much more personality than what we see in this. That's one of my biggest problems with this, with Incredible Hulk, is he barely has any personality at all.
Sure. Yeah. And that's probably a criticism for the movie as a whole, where there isn't a lot of most of the characters do kind of feel one beat a lot of the time. It's kind of like one tempo. Yeah. It's a very, which isn't always a bad thing, because I think they were aiming for a specific kind of tone. But yeah, I do think Avengers kind of aimed that tone very well, where it's like he's still kind of a darker character, but he does have some flair to him. Did you like so you liked the big recasting then, huh? For like Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love Mark Ruffalo as a character. Edward Norton never really did it for me.
Sure. I would like to see an alternate universe though, just like what it looks like if he was to continue on. Like I would like to just see what he looks like in Avengers, what he looks like in Ragnarok, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I was watching it again today. I was like, I don't know if there is any way where you could actually fit him with other characters in a team, and with this version of Hulk. I feel like he just would feel out of place so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they clearly casted someone, because they're very different. Like, besides them saying it's canon, they do feel like two completely different characters. They do feel like two completely different adaptations of them. So, like, it's very clear they casted Mark Ruffalo to work in an ensemble, to work against, Downey, to work against Evans, to work against Hemsworth, stuff like that. So, I am glad it's Mark Ruffalo. I am glad that happened. But again, I do think about it every now and again. Just be like, huh, what would it be like? Just like what would...
It would definitely be interesting. I would not mind them doing a what if episode that's trying to continue what was actually the original plan for and for the Hulk after that. But I don't know if I don't know if there's any possibility of getting that, since the next season of What If is going to be the final season.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think with that being said, that brings us towards the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much, John, for joining us for today's very greenish episode. John, where can people find you?
You can find me on all major podcast platforms. On Smash Story Presents, the Gamma Analysis is where I review a bunch of Hulk films and geeky films, and just a lot of random stuff. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. All are either at Smash Story John or at Smash Trivia. I'm probably the most active on both Twitter and on TikTok.
Yep. Go follow him all of those places. I did an episode on his podcast last Christmas, I think. We talked about the Ben 10 Christmas episode. That was a blast. If you want a good transition from my podcast to his, go check out that. That's gonna pretty much do it. Join me on Tuesday for Down After Credits. We got a lot of great shows going on right now. We're talking Agatha, we're talking The Penguin, and Superman Lois. They're all going on right now. It's been a lot of fun. And join me next Thursday for next week's Pipeline. It will be our Halloween episode, so join us then. We should be talking about our favorite Disney villains, so that should be a good time. Again, Thank you, John, for joining me today. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye.